ex-Stoke, Burnley, and he's also played in Korea. But is it Busan Park? I'm going to say. Andy Cooke is joining us. I suppose we should start off with asking, how did a move from kind of semi-pro level at Wales to England really come about?
I don't. Just going back a little bit. I mean, I was at Telford as a kid.
Yeah.
They had a great setup at the time, and I was sort of there. And I didn't really. The old manager at the time was Jerry Daly, and even though I was sort of playing conference football at sort of just on the back end of about 17, really.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, if it happened in this day and age, obviously if you were consistently playing conference football at 17 and standing out, you would have had a great chance of maybe progressing further, or league sides would have seen you. But for some reason back in the day, it never seemed to happen.
Yeah.
And I sort of had not a fallout, but disagreements with Jerry, who was obviously highly respected, ex-Man United, Derby, etc. It just never really worked out. He sort of liked his old experienced players, and I went to Newtown and just sort of had to take a step back to take a step forward. I think it was just a case of believing in yourself and just playing football and doing what you had an ability and giving it your maximum, and it, sort of there for 12 months, and it just happened that way really. And the managers at the time, Jake King, who was ex-Wrexham and Shrewsbury player, and Brian Coyne, they had a massive hand in moving me forward. So it was, like I said, a step back to a step forward, but it was a good experience, and I'm sort of glad I did it, because it got me where I needed to be really.
How did you find the step from Welsh football to kind of Burnley? How the standard and the change in the way you play?
Obviously, it was a massive leap.
Yeah.
I think that was Wales back then. I think it was probably the Conica League of Wales, but the established League of Wales. It was the Premier League of Wales.
Yeah.
You could still qualify for Europe, but obviously from that level to sort of, I think Burnley were in the Championship then, but they just got relegated. So my first season was probably the equivalent of League One now, but the old League Two.
Yeah.
It's a massive jump. I think that the training is from being a part-timer and having a full-time job to work to actually being a full-time player. There's a massive contrast. Obviously, the quality of player and the players who I was with, there was a lot of experienced players there, or lads that were very, very good players, who had been very good players. So it was a big eye-opener, and to step up to the plate of full-time football, it is a big jump, not only in the training, but of the quality that's needed. And obviously we're talking a long time ago, but it was still the same then. It was a big jump really.
How much? I know it's an odd question, but how much more do you train when you go from kind of part-time to full-time? Are you doing kind of double the time a week? Are you doing, or is it?
Obviously, you're doing on a general week, taking games out of the equation, or you can go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday, game Saturday. That would be without games, but you'd always, if you had a midweek game, you'd still train. Your Sunday would generally be a day off, but you'd be training Monday, game Tuesday. Or you do a morning session and then a game Tuesday night, then you warm down Wednesday or most of Wednesday off, train Thursday, Friday and Saturday. So it's a big lump, but it's not about, part-time is still tough, but I think it's just intensity. You are literally, the training changes massively from, a couple of hours on a Tuesday night and a Thursday to, it is different. There's a lot of more, I'd say, intensity in training. There's a lot more to work at, and there's not saying so much pressure. There probably is more pressure on, as being a professional. It is a full-time job, and that is solely what you concentrate on.
How did you find your time there at Burnley? You were there for about 5 years?
To be honest, it was just about, it was about 5.5 years, really. Absolutely brilliant. A fantastic football club. Great fans, and I loved every minute of it, to be honest. It was very difficult at the start, because it's from doing what you're doing to moving there, so it's a huge change. time. We had, great teams. And met so many people and played under a lot of managers, but just a fantastic place to be. Really, really good. So for me to be there that long was, it was just a great experience, really. And as I said, a fantastic football club.
You got about half a season after the promotion before moving back to Stoke. Was it because was it a kind of a wanted to go there because of the fact you supported the club, or were you a bit gutted to be leaving once you'd got up the league?
Going back, I'm just speaking honestly. I got offered another contract at Burnley, and it was there, and then it wasn't there. So they sort of offered us something, and then it wasn't. So I don't. It's a bit complicated at the time, but as soon as they said, "Would you be interested in talking to Stoke?" it was like one of them things that progressed quickly when there was a contract, and then there wasn't. So maybe the interest from Stoke at the time pushed me forward for that. But I think just the fact that it was Stoke, I was just very, very keen. It was something I always wanted to do, and the opportunity came about. And I don't know, it's just one of them things. You just think, well, this opportunity might not come again. So I would like to speak to them. So, but as I said, if the contract probably wasn't, it was there, and then it possibly wasn't there. If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sort of wanted the situation for me to speak to Stoke was a little bit more defiant, if you know what I mean. I really wanted to sort of push it through and speak to them and see what they wanted to say and see what they wanted. So that sort of sped it along a little bit.
What's it like when you get to play for a club you supported? Is it pressurised, or is it just exciting?
It is very exciting. I did feel it a little bit. I wouldn't say I had a great time there. It was difficult, but I think because all my best friends supported the club, and a lot of people I knew supported the club, it was like a personal challenge where I just wanted to go and play there and try and achieve something really that I've actually gone and done there. I really wanted to do so well, but I think the more you think about it, the more you work hard at it, sometimes it just doesn't work. As much as I enjoyed it, it's an absolute unbelievable football club, and what they've done from, I'd like to think in the team that I played in that we helped get that club to where they are today. We can say that from what we achieved and what I achieved, and the lads that I worked with at the time. I thought it was we'd had a little hand in where they are today. So there was still a massive amount achieved, but whether I'm being a bit hard on myself, but I just didn't do as well as I really wanted to do there. That was which was a bit, it's the only sort of the downside of being there, really, because I wanted to do so well.
What was it like being there as well with the Icelandic owners?
What was it like? Sorry.
Yeah, was there a difference around the club, do you think? Because it wasn't long after you.
I'm going to say it was very strange because there seemed to be a little click. There was a big click there because the manager, obviously Icelandic, the physio. There was a lot. The manager's son was there. There was a lot of Icelandic players there. Ricky Davison. I'm just trying to think of a few more. There was quite a few. There was a couple of Scandinavians there. So there was obviously that side of it, and it was difficult. But I don't know. There was a good mixture there. I think a real good mixture, and I think Good John got it pretty much right in the end. In order to gain promotion, that's what it was all about. Sometimes the workplace isn't always great, but you've got to get your head down and work really hard at it, and I think we did to achieve promotion when we did. So credit to him, because it was difficult and there's a lot of pressure there, but he obviously got it right in the end to gain promotion.
What's it like, a big game like that gaining promotion, especially for a club you have such a bond with?
For what?
You went out to from the second to the first again. Was it bigger having gone up with Stoke because of the kind of?
I think because of Stoke. Obviously the new ground, and say new. relatively new. I think there was the size of the club and where it's been. There's so many sleeping giants today, and they'll understand. Stoke was a massive, massive club playing at lower level football, and I would say lower level, just trying to get back into the Championship. And I think there was a huge amount of pressure there, and to achieve that, it's hard work, really hard work. I'm sure you spoke to many a manager or player who's involved in trying to get back into where certain clubs need to be. So there's a massive amount of pressure. So, as I said, I think at times, as much as things don't seem right or the players don't seem right, I think to get a big club back to where they need to be, I think is a very big task. So, as I said, they must have done something right.
I think that was the grounding. That period was the grounding for the club Stoke are. Well, the Premier League Stoke club. So
yeah.
Before then, there had been kind of sleeping giants, as you say, and since then, really, they've kind of pushed on. So that would be quite a defining period in many ways.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, as I say, there's the emphasis on clubs like Stoke, and there's many. We can go through them like your Sheffield Wednesdays and. Cardiff have achieved massive things. There's so many big old clubs there with a massive amount of tradition and history that you think, how can they be playing there or whatever? So it's so important or as I said, defining moments in time or when I've been there. It's a big thing to get these clubs back to where they need to be, and since what Stoke have got there and what Tony sort of achieved, whether some people think it's right or wrong, how he's done it, they've done an absolute fantastic job, amazing job to get back where they've been and to establish themselves as a Premier League outfit. I think, it's just great, not for the area, but for all the fans and everyone involved within the football club.
Well, after Stoke, you moved to Korea and you played under Sunderland hero Ian Porterfield. So how did the move to Korea come about, and what was it like playing under Ian Porterfield?
It came out of the blue. I still had another year, just under a year to run at Stoke, and I got wind of it, bizarrely enough, from my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law plays football, and it's his agent who sort of mentioned it to me. And I spoke to him. This was one of the pre-seasons. I can't even think what year now, but so I got through wind of it from me, as I said, from my brother-in-law's agent, and it sort of progressed from there. I mean, Tony Pulis hadn't long been in the club. We secured safety in the Championship, so I knew what Tony was thinking. He was thinking about certain players, and I knew how Tony plays and what sort of centre forwards he needs. So I thought maybe it's time to move on. I just thought it was a challenge. It interested me. It was not long after the World Cup, so it was sort of from there. Really, it progressed from there. I mean, I had a game of golf with Tony on one of the days just to discuss and finalise what my plans were and would I be interested in stuff. So, and I just thought, well, let's go out and give it a go. So we just went out. We didn't actually even fly out. I think a few players that had been out and signed or whatever, or been to have a look at the club over in Korea, would fly out first to have a look around, but we just decided to just pack up and go. We just decided
You moved over to Jamie Curran.
Was what, sorry?
Because you moved over with Jamie Curran.
That's right. Well, yeah, we moved over, and then Jamie was sort of signed as well at the same time. So it was it was good. It was good that there was another English player I was aware of, and didn't know him properly. Well, obviously, I was aware of him, but we became good friends. So it was really good actually that he was over at the time.
And were you there when Chris Marsden moved over?
Yeah, I was there with Chris. Yeah, as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and would you recommend for English players from the lower leagues to try playing in other leagues around the world to get some life experience?
I don't think it's that easy. If you get opportunity, I mean, like I said, I took the opportunity after the World Cup. It was a big thing out in Korea. Football was massive, and obviously out in Japan and whatever, and the stadiums are absolutely incredible. Really, so lucky to play in literally world-class stadiums every week. but I just don't think these opportunities come around very often. It's so difficult, you know. A lot of lads, or good lads, will get contracts in this because it's so difficult to get links into other clubs, you know, around Europe, unless you're known or there's British managers in other countries or you're aware. So, you know, it's not an easy thing to do. I think it was just I said personally, on a personal note, if you get opportunity, then you've got to weigh it up, age, where you are, what you want out of football, where you want to be, because it's a big gamble and it's a huge commitment. You know, moving to the other side of the world that I did, it's a massive commitment. So
yeah,
you know, but it all depends. I think young lads, if you get opportunities loan wise, brilliant. You know, if that opportunity comes along, I'd recommend it. But you know, it's not an easy thing to do by no means.
Yeah, and what was the biggest difference in the football style between like lower league Britain and Korean?
Well, I mean, don't forget when I went out there, the Korean national side. I mean, I think they were semi-finalists in the World Cup that year.
Yeah.
So, you know, technically, I would say they were brilliant. If I can, I'll just tell you a little story. My first ever game, I went out and I had to play in a reserve game. There was this pitch on the outside the stadium, and I played in the reserve game. And didn't know anyone, didn't have a clue what I was doing. Just literally went out, and I did not touch the ball for 25 minutes. and it was about 85 degrees at 7 o'clock at night, and I was in this game, and I thought, what have I done here? I can't get anywhere near him. I couldn't touch the ball. It was hot, homesick already, and I thought, what am I doing? But I don't know, it just seemed to, after a few weeks you just acclimatise and get used to it. But you know, it is just technically they're very, very good players. You know, they just seem to be more comfortable, a lot comfortable on the ball, and but I think the only defining thing is, I think while they're so comfortable, while the game's going on, or personally as an individual, I found is I could always find a little bit of space, or they'd switch off for that split second in a ability to get half a yard to score, really. Yeah. So that was only the major difference that I could see.
Great.
So what was it when you move over there? Does the culture shock hold you back when you start playing, or is it just that football is the kind of, it's cheesy as hell to say, football's a universal language? Was it on the football field where everything kind of clicks to make it easier?
I think so. I think the culture, fantastic culture. I mean, when we moved over, as I said, we just literally jumped straight into it. My wife was pregnant, so she was carrying at the time. Homesick was, you know, we didn't really get to know that many expats. It was, you know, Ian spoke English, and the assistant manager at the time spoke English, and that was about it. Some of the Koreans are such lovely people, and the culture and the food is fantastic, so that helps. But there's some lonely times there. You know, it was very difficult to acclimatise to where you were, and I think the sessions, Ian, I mean, God rest him now, but even now, if he was still here, I'd say the training, he would train in the heat for 2.5 hours in the morning, 3 hours, and we'd have lunch. Because the facilities were fantastic. You'd go and have some lunch and then go and have a sleep and whatever, and then in the afternoon you'd get back and we'd do like another 2.5 hours, 3 hours in the afternoon, and it used to absolutely kill me. And now that's drive another hour. But, well, it was only about sort of 5 or 6 miles to the house across the city, but it'd take me about an hour and a half just purely because the traffic was crazy. So it was really, really tough. And then obviously I'm out all day, and my wife was at home just literally just pulling her hair out. Like, what do I do? She couldn't even, she couldn't get out because it was that hot in the day. So it was really, really tough.
Speaking of that, when the footballers obviously have to adapt to different conditions for tournaments and stuff, with the World Cup in Qatar, which is probably going to be, I don't know if it would be hotter than South Korea.
Yeah.
How hard is it for football players to kind of adapt to these kind of things?
I think it's a good one. I mean, whether they can switch it to the winter or not, or they're talking about I mean, I'm sure they can, whether they're talking about aircon stadiums, and I don't know. But, I mean, to play in midday heat, I mean, I presume just all games will be at night because day matches would, I don't know. I mean, they were hot in Korea, but at Qatar, I mean, I've just come back from Dubai a few weeks ago. I mean, to play in that heat is you know, I just don't really see how it can be done in days. I mean, nights is bad enough. So it'd be interesting to see what they actually finalise for that World Cup, really.
Yes, I can't see it being that much cooler in the winter. They're the same.
Probably not. I mean, it does get a little bit. I don't think they say the humidity gets a little bit worse, but it's cooler. So I don't know. But you know, it's very, very difficult. Very difficult to play in it. But I think you do. You know, obviously with living there and working there, you acclimatise. But over a 2-week tournament, I just don't. You know, I think it'd be extremely difficult. I don't really know how it would work, to be honest, unless something was introduced.
Did it benefit? Does playing in that kind of heat benefit your fitness for when you came back to England at all? Does it, or is it just because is it different conditions you kind of have to adapt when you get back anyway?
I think I would say when I was there, I was probably the fittest I've ever been in my life, easily. Just not only because of the amount of training I did, or just the condition I was in when I was there was probably just I wish I could have got myself in the condition I was there back in this country. Yeah. You know, I wish there was probably facilities to train to that got me in that condition there, because I literally was probably in the best condition of my life, which showing the way I played probably out there, really, which I've never probably been in that as fit as I've been in this league, this country. I've never probably peaked as much as I do out there. So there's something to say for it, whether it's just the science of it or the way we were training or whatever. But I would say I was very fit out there.
Did their enthusiasm remain kind of the whole year after? Obviously they'd had the World Cup. Did it die down at all, or have they kind of did it stay with them, the fans of South Korea?
I think it was still there. I mean, it was very weird because the stadiums were so big. Yeah. I mean, I remember playing in Seoul. We played FC Seoul, and I think there was about 48,000 in the stadium, but the stadium could probably fit about 85, 90,000, so it was still half empty, bizarre. So it never looked that many there. I mean, I think we never used to have that many at our game. We probably had about 5,000 or 6,000 at probably home games sometimes, and it just looked absolutely empty, our ground, because our ground was so massive. I mean, it was huge. And I think we played one game, biggest game we played at our home game was probably about 20,000, something like that. And again, it just looked like there was no one there because the stadiums were so vast. Japan, talking about, I mean, them stadiums are packed every week, and I've played a lot of Japanese sides, but I didn't really understand at the time, because every time we played the Japanese sides, we literally tore, they weren't that as good as I thought they were. Yeah. And, all these people are going to watch them, I think, what's all the fuss about? Because these Japanese sides, they're not that good. No. So, there's a big contrast where the Japanese would fill, 80,000 stadiums, and the Koreans, there'd be a lot there, but it probably wasn't as it didn't take off as much as Japan did, if you know what I mean.
No, I'd say to anyone, to our listeners, to go have a look at. I was going to say this wrong. The Busan Asaid Stadium. Yeah,
it's an incredible. If you ever get to look at it, just look at it on the internet.
Yeah, I've just looked at a picture
with a little hole in it. Really,
it's nicer than most of the stadiums in this country, and all the seats look like a jigsaw, a crayon's jigsaw. Yeah.
I mean, every stadium I played at, there were some fantastic stadiums. We had a local derby, Ulsan. I mean, they had I can't fault any of them, and literally every time we drove to a ground and a bus or whatever, the bus would go down under the ground. Yeah. So the car parks would always be under the stadium. So, literally in a different world to we build stadiums over here, and they're fantastic, but there, I don't know, everything was just incredible. And in the stadium, when you get into the changing rooms, you open a door and there'd be like a huge warm-up area, like you could just go. You didn't have to go out on the pitch. Sometimes you could just go in the warm-up areas on AstroTurf and just warm up inside the stadium, underneath it. So that's how far advanced they were.
That's
and we're
incredible.
talking quite a few years ago now.
Yeah. How do you, when you went out there, was it a worry that maybe you'd not be forgotten by English football, but it wouldn't be as easy to say get a move back? Was it? How did the Bradford move come about?
It's a good question. When I was out there, I probably didn't even think about it. And this is a crazy thing. In hindsight, I should have stayed there probably, because I was on such a good thing and I was playing so well. If it wasn't for the birth of our first child and the heat and the loneliness at times for my wife and for ourselves, I think big issues are coming to play there, family obviously. But hindsight, we should have done a good fight. I probably should have stayed there and just finished, done 5 or 6 years, and it would have been great. But we came back, I think, because you look constantly on the computer. I think that's down to loneliness at times, or being out there, you want to keep in touch. And I think we just wanted to get back and maybe have another crack at English football. When I first came back, I went. Steve Cottrell, who I know very well, he was at Burnley. Yeah. So I went back to Burnley, and he put me up in a hotel, and I was training there for like a couple of weeks. Offered me a deal, but it was only he offered. They were in the Championship. It was only a 6-month deal. He said, like, give it me from now to the end of the season. And the difficulty was that we'd sort of bought a development where we live now, but we obviously invested quite a bit of money into like a future business. Yeah. And I just wanted a little bit of security. So the Bradford thing came up, and Colin at the time offered us 18 months. So I decided to take that. In fact, sorry, if I could just go back before when I was out there, Chris Marsden. It was weird. He came back. Chris went and signed for Sheffield Wednesday because he couldn't really take any more of it out in Korea. Yeah. So I'm just backtracking a little bit, but he was at Sheffield Wednesday, and when I first landed back in the country, this was November. So I spoke to Steve. Steve said come and train, but I think the manager at the time was Paul Sturrock at Sheffield Wednesday, and Paul said, "We want, Chris has said a lot of great things about you. I know you. Come and speak to me. We'll see if we can do something." Because I'd flown back, I think it was at the end of November, coming into December. Nothing. I wanted to go and speak to Paul, but there was a hiccup. We suddenly found out from the FA because I crossed borders. I literally couldn't sign. I could not. I was out of contract, but I'd crossed borders, so I couldn't sign a contract until January the 1st. So then literally I was out of work then for a whole month, well over a month. I couldn't do anything about it. My hands were tied. Yeah. Which is, any player, I think there's a few players, but it's not highlighted enough, I don't think, because I could have probably signed for Sheffield Wednesday, but it didn't come off purely because of those regulations. So obviously I went to train with Burnley, but I'll go on to Bradford. Colin offered us a deal, and I signed on. Well, the deal went through. It didn't go on through on the January the 1st. I think it went through on the 3rd eventually. So that was one of the reasons behind that.
And then you've you got kind of a season or so at Bradford and a couple of years at Shrewsbury. That's right. Yeah. Bradford didn't work out. It was, I think, whether just coming back, and I was literally travelling from where I'd do to Bradford, and then we moved up near there, and it was really hard work. We had another child. It was really difficult. My wife was really poorly at the time, and it was just seemed to be a nightmare. Yeah. So, and then the opportunity for Shrewsbury was somewhere I always wanted to sort of play at. Again, as well as Stoke, I always watched Shrewsbury. You're born in Shrewsbury, were you? Yeah. So I pushed. I tried to push it there, really, just to push myself in there. Gary Peters was the manager at the time, and I literally had to ask him, and look, Gary, I want to come and play. What do you want? Well, he made me play about 5 pre-season games, I think.
to prove myself, which, I more than did, but he eventually gave us a contract there, which he had to. I think he had no choice, because I think I was doing so well in the pre-season games, he had to. So, I'm so glad that I managed to do that in the end.
That's it. How is it? I always wonder this. How is it when you kind of end your career? How do you adapt to that? Does it how long does it take you to make the decision as well?
I think it's purely I think a lot of it's circumstantial. I mean, they say contracts, and for me, money's been a help, but we're not. I'm being honest. We're not talking great. Never talking fantastic money. Career was obviously lucrative, but we had certain tax issues and stuff when we came back, which we did. But that was just part and parcel of moving away and missed time, and not, as I said, hindsight, going away and coming back at the wrong time. But we knew that anyway. But it's nothing about money. I think it's just purely about playing football and the love of what you're doing, and just getting the most out of what you can do all the time. So decisions, hindsight's a great thing, but decisions of where you want to be at that time and whatever, you just make, something must click or make you think it's right for that period of time, or that specific time when the decision has to be made, and then you just literally go and do it, and you have to fit in the best you can, whether it works for you or not.
Yeah, the last thing I wanted to ask you about was kind of director of football at Market Drayton.
That's right, yeah.
I mean, what was that like as a footballer, suddenly kind of going into the backstage, not backstage, behind the scenes kind of stuff?
I'm Market Drayton sort of born and bred, really, so I've got a lot of love for the town, and I wanted to sort of help the club. They were in a very difficult position, and personally, I think from becoming a player and then stepping away from football and doing bits and bobs, to coach and to sort of start again, I think you need to work from the bottom, not the bottom, but you need certain levels of understanding. Now, Market Drayton, we're not talking the highest non-league side in the world, but for the size of the town, they play very good established football. They're probably overachieving at the moment for where they are, league-wise, pyramid-wise. Yeah. And it was something I really wanted to take on, and to go and do it, and to now have done it. I'm really glad I've done it, because of non-league mentality, and non-league players is completely different from football. So, to learn that and to take that forward has been brilliant, really.
Do you still get to play any kind of football more now you're retired? Do you get socially, or?
Not really. I mean, I did a bit I played probably more times for Drayton than I really wanted to. I didn't really want to play. I don't mind coming on for 20 minutes or whatever, but I'd always train with the lads, and whatever we did in pre-season, I would always do. So I always think that to get on their wavelength, I'm not just whatever you do in pre-season. I'm not just going to run lads or whatever, but whatever physical work was done or whatever physical sessions were put on, I would always try and do myself. So, and if I can do them, then I'm sure the lads can. So there's no excuses really. But I don't know. It was a great learning curve.
And I'll say, end with now your careers. How would you sum it up, your football career?
I think from the clubs I've played at and the experience I've had, alright, it's not the greatest, or not as privileged as top Premier players and who have unbelievable careers. But I think for the ability I had, and which wasn't wasn't great ability, but one thing I did have, and what I made a great living at, was just working hard and being a hard-working centre forward, which literally I was very lucky to play for a lot of big clubs, and to stand out that way, to make a living over 13 years in in any profession. I think you know you've got to be lucky, but something you're really good at, or to mould your ability, or you know for what you've got and make the most of it. You know, I think I'm very lucky, so I can look back and think, well, yeah, I've had a great crack at it. I've had some great experiences. I've played with some fantastic players, you know, world-class players against world-class players, and had a fantastic time at it.
Wonderful. Well, I think we could taken up far too much of your time, really.
All right, no problem.
We could wrap it up if that's okay with the other two.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, Andy.
Yeah,
no problem.
Andy, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed the chance to chat with you.
Okay, no, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.